right, guys, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching. And of course, thanks for subscribing. I guess better late than never. We've got 10.69.1, which is also a code name or alternate for 10.13, coming from 10.12. something to 10.13 that Elon decided to make 10.69. So we're on the, I think, third iteration of 10.69, which is 10.69.1.1, which bodes well for us, which is great. I know some people are still waiting. People are still in the safety score boat, but not so well for the fact that it shows to me that they're not really prioritizing the Northeast like I suggested, the New York area, the Connecticut area, the way that it should, because those are more complex scenarios. But I digress. Maybe I'm missing something. Maybe I'm not seeing the big picture. We're going to take it out for a test drive and see how the testing that's been done everywhere else, primarily in the West Coast, in the Midwest, how that bodes for this Northeast area now with this latest iteration. Okay. So first and foremost, the resets, the forced autopilot disengagement counter has been set back to zero, reset back to zero. So if you were out, if you had some strikes, we had one strike that we caught on video. That's now reset to zero for everybody. So that's great, first and foremost. People that were kicked out completely and exceeded the amount of strikes or the maximum amount of strikes, I'm sure they're getting reinstated as well. So that's good for everybody there. Good job, Tesla, on that one. All right. In terms of the release notes, there are a lot of release notes. I'm not going to go through all of them. I'll probably look at the highlights and sort of summarize some of them because there's so many right here. And you probably have seen a lot already with other videos that are out there. I think the big ones here are the deep lane guidance. So further down the lane, the car can see and start to extrapolate with the path planner. So being able to show that, so being able to improve its ability to maneuver and display the maneuvers further down the road, looking further down the road and making decisions based on that. So I'm looking forward to seeing that. We also have the introduction of what they call a creep network, which is effectively showing a little bit of a wall, a little barrier for when the car is creeping, because now you can understand and visually see, allegedly, when the car is going to come to a stop when it's creeping, as opposed to just being scarily creeping out there and not knowing when it's going to stop or if it's going to stop. So that's really, really good. The other thing I have here that they focused on a lot is the unprotected left turn with a median, right? So a scenario where you have some traffic coming from both sides, very fast or very slow, but you have a median area where the car is supposed to rest or stop or pause to allow the second part of the turn. First part getting across the cross traffic here, getting in the median, and then getting past the other part of the traffic or flow of traffic from there. And that was pretty much made popular by the guy Chuck Cook, an owner and FSD Beta tester who lives in an area where he does some really, really good and intricate testing when it comes to unprotected left lanes in a high-speed scenario. He sets up drones. He has multiple cameras. So shout out to Chuck Cook for that. So they put a lot of attention on that with this particular 10.69 release, trying to make that right and make that possible for people like that have scenarios or traffic scenarios like Chuck Cook. All right. Added control for arbitrary low speed moving volumes from occupancy network. This enables finer control for more precise object shapes that cannot be easily represented by cuboid primitives. This required predicting velocity at every 3D voxel. So we're getting into a lot of technical terms. A lot of people might not understand, but basically improves the ability for the car to recognize and maneuver around smaller objects at slow moving speeds. All right. Otherwise, a lot of good stuff in here. I'm not going to go through all of it. I actually just want to get on the road and see how it fares. Again, my issue and my concern is that they've not put a lot of attention in this area. They put a lot of attention on the West Coast, Midwest, like I said, and they've also put a lot of attention on unprotected left with the median. Let's see how it bodes for this area. So for those that are new to the channel, we do our typical, not going to call them loops because they're not loops, but traditional paths to test regressions, to see how the software is iterating one version over the next. So since there's been a few versions since our version, and there's been a lot of time in between there, we're going to see how our two test scenarios work. We're going to do one test scenario, followed by another, and then end it there. Then we'll do another video for unprotected lefts and another video where we go back to New York City and prove my point or prove me wrong and show that, FSD Beta has improved and they got bike lanes and bus lanes and one-way streets and construction and all that good stuff mapped out with this latest release. So let's see what happens right now. All right, guys, we're back at it. FSD Beta 10.69.1. with the Model S Plaid. Car's turning. Car's turning down the road. You guys can't see it. And car's creeping up. Okay. Pretty good. Model S Plaid 10.69.1.1 Northeast United States. We've got the profile set to average. We've got, every other setting is standard. Comfort, suspension on autopilot, whatever the case may be. Coming up on our first turn. Stays. Goes over the bike lane a little bit, the shoulder, if you will. And starts to make this turn. I'm going to be extra cautious here because we got dinged and we can now prove that FSD Beta can hit curbs as we have curbed our rim, or as it has curbed our rim. But so far, a little bit hesitant and a little bit wide. Again, this is why we do these regressive testing. A little bit wide, close to the curb. This is, again, not so good, not going off to a good start, but let's see what happens as we go further. We're going to hit an unprotected left turn. It's not going to be as complex as Chuck Cook's left turn, but it's still going to be able to tell us if it's getting better or if it's getting worse as a result. Again, really, really wide on this turn. Really, really close here. Really, really close here. I'm going to pop up another angle for you guys to see. So you guys can see the other angle. Coming up to this unprotected left right here, a bicyclist is coming. We're going to hold off a little bit. It's slowing down, showing that creep wall there as well. It's all clear to go, and it's going. Excellent job. Excellent job. I think that's where the work of working on that unprotected left comes into play, where it did an excellent job here, where it typically starts to hesitate and not commit and be confident. So I think the creep network, the creep wall, if you will, is helpful to be able to see how far the car is going to go out to creep, and also the level of confidence that it showed just by committing to the turn and not hesitating and waiting. It did kind of creep up a little bit more than I would like for the bicyclist who was making the turn, but overall, I think it did a really good job. Okay, one thing I'll also note is that the visuals seem a lot more stable. The curbs seem a lot more solid and stable. They're not flailing around and moving and herking and jerking. Pedestrian crossing slows down with a good enough space here. Excellent job, not coming to a complete stop, but actually going. So this is actually an improvement. Prior to this, the car would come to a complete stop, wait for the pedestrian to go all the way across, and then proceed. This one kind of slowed down almost to a standstill, but as the pedestrian got out of the path, it then proceeded to go forward so as to now hold up the traffic behind us, because this is typically how humans drive. Okay, so visuals are nice and crisp now, nice and solid. They've actually added lines here so you now can see the lane that the FSD Beta has been trying to get into, the lane line that the FSD Beta was trying to adhere to, this particular sign. The lines were not on the road before, they are there now. So now FSD Beta is actually more stable here. Now that the lines are accompanying the signage, which I, of course, ignored for many, many iterations and didn't realize that sign was there. So good job so far with FSD Beta 10.69.1 Northeast Tesla Model S Plaid. Okay, graphics are stable, like I said before. Cars are moving pretty good. And one of the release notes, I think one of the release notes indicated that now cars that are occluded by other cars no longer blip and disappear. They'll be extrapolated, like I was mentioning before, recommended. But otherwise, everything seems pretty solid, much more stable than before in terms of what I'm seeing visually on the screen and what I'm feeling by the car driving. I have it set to the limit. I'm not going to go over for now, just to test it out and see what it does. And this is going to be test pass 1. We're going to include test pass 2 in this one as well, because the next video we're going to be doing unprotected lefts. And then after that, shortly after that, we'll be jumping back to New York City. Unfortunately, we get these builds at days where it's going to be raining horribly, typically, or during a very, very busy work week. And so it's pretty difficult to get into the city and do a lot of good testing without sitting in traffic for hours and hours on end. So far, so good. Getting over, going the limit. I don't want to go faster, but people are starting to pile up behind me a little bit, trying to pass me because this light's going to change. And it's sort of veering to the right and left, going through this yellow light. I don't like that at all. We sort of blocked everybody from going. So that's not good. I'll go ahead and flag that. It should stay close to this yellow line in a scenario where the lane is wide like that. Again, the recommendation, we'll just keep saying it over and over again. Maybe somebody will listen. Stopping really, really well, really naturally. And again, the wheel is not moving, but then also the line, the indicator is not flailing in the wind like it typically does. It looks like the wind is blowing it typically, and it's just flopping back and forth, not really knowing where it wants to go. And sometimes the wheel mimics that maneuver or that behavior. Railroad crossing, it does stop for when it's active. When it's not active, it goes straight through. Okay, coming up to a turn this time. Again, I'm gonna be extra cautious on these curbs because it definitely did curb the rim. A little herky-jerky and a pedestrian. Good job getting through. Good job slowing down for the pedestrian. Excellent job right there. But again, little herky-jerky. And it could just be the interpretation of the yoke because it's more rectangular than circular that I interpreted as herky-jerky. But it felt smooth and confident, but the yoke sort of flailed. All right, and we're at our destination. Okay, so far, so good. Okay, so far, so good. Let's do test pass number 2 and check that out. All right, guys, test pass number 2, where we're gonna go up our winding mountain road, FSD Beta 10.69.1, Tesla Model S Plaid. It's waiting. They're giving us the way. I'm gonna hit a little bit accelerator to give it the confidence to go. They let us go. Thank you, person. And now we're on the way. I think that's an okay scenario for the car to sort of wait a little bit because it doesn't have any visual indicator. No one flashed their lights. No one had a turn signal on. No other indicator other than the person waiting to let us go. And I'm okay with them taking their time with that scenario because we don't want a scenario where the car thinks it's clear to go and a person's actually just looking down at their phone, not paying attention, and then decides to go. All right, coming up on this particular intersection, same scenario as before, where we have to go straight. We have to be to the right side of the lane. Let's see what happens. Not in the right side of the lane right now. It's not good. Now it's getting over now. No indicator, but I'm okay with that. This car wants to go. We did not let it go. I'm okay with that as well. This car wants to go as well. I'm gonna override using a little bit of the accelerator pedal. It wanted to let it go and slow down. I just wanted to get through this. And we're gonna make a turn here again. Being cautious of these corners. Turning is much more confident now. I will say that. Confidence inspiring and more confident than before in terms of the commit of the turn. Here's where we start to get into suburban areas in the Northeast. Cars are parked pretty tight. I'm sure there's places in different areas that are tighter. Waiting for this pedestrian, right? So it highlighted blue for a minute for the pedestrian to see if it was gonna go across the crosswalk. Good way to be predictive. Good way to wait and take your time. I like that. But again, these can be tricky scenarios from a suburban area standpoint. So I want to make sure that I'm conscious of that and see how the car fares. Other cars passing, other cars are here, and we're good to go. One of my other theories as I'm talking here is that I think that FSD Beta primarily is calibrated for Model 3 and Model Y, the dimensions of that car. Because I was thinking a lot about how we actually hit that curb and curb the rim, or how the car hit the curb and curb the rim. And I feel like it's maybe not calibrated or programmed to the dimensions of this car, which is a little bit wider than those cars. Just a theory, just a thought, probably not factual, but it's just something I was considering. Because I see scenarios where this gets pretty close and a Model 3 would clear the scenario pretty easy, but because this car is a little bit wider, we find ourselves getting really, really close to areas that, again, the Model 3 and Model Y would clear with ease just because they're a little bit more narrow than this one. All right, so far so good. Suburban areas, no real issues here. Going the speed limit, I'm not gonna go over this pass. As I get more comfortable with it, I'll start to raise the speed limit 5 miles an hour over, probably max, and go from there. Okay, it should stay towards the yellow line because it knows this car is here. Instead, it's still drifting. We still have that issue where it sort of drifts, waits to the last minute, then avoids the car. Again, just trying to save it some compute cycles and some thinking and some decisions by just staying in a path that allows it to go straight. I think that's something that is still lacking in this particular iteration. All right, here's where it gets crazy. Cyclist, I expect to be very present in this area, and this turn is like cresting a hill, very steep. Let's see what happens. A little too close and a little too fast for the cyclist, slows down a little bit. Good job. Gets around them, comes over to this blind corner, takes its time and takes it nice and smooth. I like it. Slows down for that car to get through. Pretty good. Pothole, doesn't avoid. I don't expect it to. But so far, so good. That was pretty good. It did a good job avoiding the cyclist, slowing down for the car that was turning at the last minute and not sort of slamming on the brakes. So in terms of level of comfort, which is typically what we measure here, not necessarily disengagements, it did pretty good. I felt really comfortable there. It felt like a more confident teenage driver. Still go slow towards this little median area, and now we're going into the winding roads similar to Lombard Street in San Francisco. All right, going around the winding road, pretty good, slows down, takes its time. I'm okay with that. I'm gonna give the yoke a little bit of feedback, and again, just keep my hand away from the yoke to let it turn without me disengaging. But I'll put it back on here. Margin of error is very narrow here, so taking its time is good. Excellent job again, just trying to see if there's any regressions. It's done this before, it's done it successfully before with cars coming down either side as well. So we're just trying to see if anything's changed here, if it's gotten any better or if it's gotten any worse. Good job taking your time. Good job taking your time. Excellent job. One more sharp turn. And now they've added a speed limit here, but I don't think, a little too fast here. It's 50 miles an hour, that's not good. So let me dial that down a bit. That's the wrong wheel. Let me dial that way down. They added a speed limit of 10 miles an hour. It doesn't read lower than 25 miles an hour, I believe, right now. That's FSD Beta. So right now, the speed limit is 50 miles an hour. I don't know where it got that from, but that's where it can get dangerous. I'm gonna flag that just because it might be the wrong map data. Because if there's no speed limit in this type of area, depending on where we are on the map, right, we should just default to 25 miles an hour to be safe. And then the person, the driver, the operator can override it from there. But to just go to 50 miles an hour in this area in a park is pretty dangerous. I'm gonna stay at 25 just to speed the process of the video along. There's not too many people here, but they did post a 10 mile an hour sign here for this particular limit. And I don't think the system acknowledges, I know it can see it, I know it can read it. I don't think it acknowledges or adheres to anything lower than 25 mile an hour speed limit signs in terms of adjusting the speed down to 10 miles an hour. Cyclist coming through. Slows down a little, apprehensive there. That car is just sitting there, so that's good. And now we're going to proceed around. No lane markings, extremely wide lane here. Pedestrians are walking, let's see what happens. Should probably get a little bit closer this way, but we'll see. I'll let it go around the whole way. We're going way too close to these cars right here, so that's not good. Flag that. And ultimately we have to go here. So I'm gonna slow down to 15 miles an hour. And it kind of can't handle that right now because it didn't even slow down. So I'm gonna, again, flag it again. I didn't expect it to. It never did it this far here. So this was something new, just going this far. I usually disengage once I get past the wooded area, okay? So that's it. I think it's good. It's gotten better, significantly better than the previous build. Probably still has some work to do in certain areas. I'll start to drive it around a little bit more And again, put it through its paces in this Northeast area to see if all the testing that's been done, the previous early rounds of the beta that have gone to customers, has been helpful. My theory is that it probably isn't as helpful because it's not in this area. They should start to add more testers in this area, not just ourselves, but other people in this area, in the New York area, that can be helpful and can also provide data for this area, and making sure that, you know, we have the relevant data for this Northeast area and can start to feed that back for further improvement, so that when we get to a wider release, we already have New York covered. It's already in play, and, you know, we sort of go from there. All right, so let me know your thoughts in the comments. What do you think about 10.69.1? Did you get it yet? Did you not get it yet? And what your general thoughts are on it. Is it better? Is it the same? Has it gotten worse for you? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Until the next time.
Enjoy your day. Enjoy your Tesla.